Okay, fine. Up on YouTube. Are we up on YouTube? Hopefully it is up on YouTube because it is showing that it is on live. So that's good. Okay, fine. So up on YouTube, up on Twitch. What about Kick? Is Kick still kicking? hopefully it is. Yeah, Kick still kicking. Trevor, what about Trevor? I used to love. I mean, I think it is still up, right? I mean, I can see the videos coming in. So yeah, so hopefully it is still up. Alright, yeah. Fine. So yeah, fine. Everything is good. Live on all platforms. That is great. Fucking hell, man. I swear it's something or the other. It's always fucking technical difficulties. So yeah, okay, fine. Anyways, without further ado, let me not bitch about my. I mean, it's not even my my incompetence or whatever. It's just the damn things should work by themselves, you know, from the get-go, but unfortunately they don't do. That's the main thing. So yeah, so that's that. Anyways, yeah, welcome back. Friday evening. Everything is going fine. Everything is going well. Yeah, I kind of like got. I was thinking, it's like, oh yeah, you know what? I think I should adhere to the. It's not a New Year resolution. Just adhere to what I promised to myself. But I said, you know what? I'm going to like drink 2 times a week this month. Because anyways, so I'm going to be on vacation, and then it's going to be New Year, so like I'll probably drink a lot. From next month, I'll probably drink once a week, and then from February, I'll probably go to my regularly scheduled program, which is drink only twice a month. I think that'll be also quite a good change of pace. So yeah, because anyways, you know what? Next week from Wednesday I'll have vacation, and I kind of gets boring, to be fair. So I kind of like do need a little bit of motivation to kind of like finish the fucking week. And yeah, apart from that, also, you know, winter vacations, that is going to fucking start to in the January end. So kind of like really want to see that as well. So yeah, that's that. Just messing about in Castle Labs. Want to get a proper viewer list which shows me all the budget, no labels, all sufficient donation alert. Yeah, which I gas prescription cam budget. So many fucking rubbish, Jesus Christ. Yeah, Arctic Store is like, you know, whatever is meant to, and you know, coded for the PC. I think it would, you know, probably like work for the PC without any like ifs and buts. But apparently, no. If I can think, just ends up fucking breaking whatever for absolutely no fucking reason, which is fucking annoying. Bloody hell. Like seriously, just ends up fucking breaking like anything, like absolutely ridiculous. Just ends up breaking something or other. Fucking breaks every single fucking time, and you kind of like fine to some extent. It's kind of like you can figure it out as well, right? But like some things just end up breaking. It's like you're thinking, does this fucking work? Does that fucking work? What the fuck is that? What the fuck is this? It's like just ruins the entire fucking momentum of the fucking stream. And then it always fucking happens for some reason. For me at least, on the streams, like something or that fucking always something happens. It's like, what the fuck, man? Jesus Christ. Can I just have one fucking stream where absolutely everything works as it should without nothing breaking? Apparently no, I can't. So yeah. I mean, it's fine, but it's also kind of like annoying to be fair. So yeah, that's that. Also, yeah, one thing is like I have the battery right in front of me, so oof, they've been properly heating the central heating. That's good, absolutely fantastic. So yeah, that's that. Apart from that, I don't know really. What can we do? What can we say? Apart from that, let's see. Maybe I think I'm missing something which I haven't spoken to about. I'm pretty sure I'm missing something. Am I? Pretty sure. So yeah, what is that? What else? Yeah. Yeah, one thing which is actually interesting, but I'm pretty sure I can show you all, but you won't be able to see anything. Wait a minute. Content was removed. Stream was interrupted. Got a haircut. Okay. I got a guideline strike. I had to resolve that fucking thing afterwards. Tomorrow, yeah. One thing was very interesting which I got was kind of like a rash over here. I've never had it before. And the fucking skin is like so fucking dry. It's like peels off. Even though I just touched it, and it's like it feels like oily, but it's not oily because it's dry as fuck. I've never had this fucking rash on top of that. Never, ever, never. Yeah, for some reason, for the past week, this year, out of all the fucking 5 years I've spent in this kind of weather, apparently it's decided, you know what, it's time to shine. So yeah. Out of nowhere, I don't know. I haven't actually applied any moisturizer or whatever, because I don't know, don't particularly want to interfere with it, because they're like, oh yeah, you know what, by itself is going to fucking dissolve. And apparently fucking did. So it's already been a week. So yeah, so I have to figure it out by either applying some lotion, because I've already cleaned my face with fucking soap. Fucking soap doesn't work. So I think I'll probably have to buy some lotion or some moisturizer or some shit like that just to fucking. But the thing is the weather hasn't been harsh or anything. It's actually been kind of quite mild. So I don't know from where the fuck it happened. And the thing is I was thinking oh yeah, maybe I've made contact with something which kind of irritated my skin. I sleep on this side. I don't really touch anything with my fucking face, So it's what the fuck? From where the fuck is my skin getting irritated? Absolutely insane. So yeah, meh. It's fine. At least it's not the entire fucking face. It's only this part of it. But the thing is it does get itchy, which is very annoying. So yeah. I'm just looking at this and just fucking amazed by how fucking just how calm it is. It's actually very pleasant to look at. Especially the lo-fi is oh my goodness, bloody hell. Yeah. Fucking hell. I'm not, maybe I'm just drunk, but damn. Definitely. Yeah. So yeah, that's that. Another thing is it's kind of thought, okay fine, you know what, I'm going to change the time that I upload the videos for both my channels. So instead of uploading at 12 in the morning, I started uploading at 6 in the evening. For some reason actually decreased my analytics. But yeah, maybe I think I'll give it like more, half the month. Let's say maybe it'll get better. If it doesn't improve the views or whatever, just resort to uploading it at 12, because it's like when I'm making shorts or when I'm uploading shorts, just the main thing that I do, right? It's quite easy to just kind of like upload it like by default, because like the default time is like 12 in the morning, night, right? So yeah, because like I thought like, oh, you know what, maybe because I want like target the English speaking audiences, and it's like usually like like the UK and the US have their evening start at around like my 5-6 p.m. It's like, oh yeah, no, that'd be quite a great idea. Fuck off, doesn't really matter. It doesn't fucking matter, because majority of fucking things anyways gets suggested to the Belarus people who don't understand anything English related, so just skip it, and my analytics go like fuck all. So yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, maybe there's like some way to navigate it through like making a fucking VPN or something, but like, you know what, to be fair, fuck off. I'd rather get downvoted by the Belarusians and upload my videos with ease, rather than go through all the fucking like 10 fucking loopholes or whatever just to get my fucking thing. Is like, I don't think it's worth it. Fuck off. And the thing is like, anyways, you know what, for at least, let's say I'll upload one video per month, at least by the end of the month. Pretty sure at least 1,000 people will get sick of me. Like, what the fuck is this dude who's speaking English coming up on my fucking feed? They'll ignore my fucking shit, and I'll slowly start actually realizing that, oh yeah, wait a minute, this dude is actually fucking speaking English, and we should recommend him to English speaking people instead of Russian speaking people. It's like, what the fuck? Also, I understand this one thing. It's like, yeah, okay, fine, it makes sense, for example, for TikTok, right, or for other streaming platforms, like promote the creators which are like in your vicinity, because like, oh yeah, because they might have the same things to talk about, they live in the same place. That's the thing. But things like, if they're speaking the same language, then yeah, sure. But if they're speaking a completely different language, for example, if I was a fucking Spanish dude living in Belarus, why the fuck would TikTok suggest me my Spanish videos to Belarusian audience? It doesn't really make sense. Why the fuck would you do that? Why the fuck would you actually do that? But anyways, you know what, apparently that's a good thing. So yeah, I mean, I just have to give it a little bit of time. Yeah, afterwards, after like 1 or 2 months, maybe 3 months, maybe half a year, it'll realize that, oh yeah, wait a minute, this dude is actually speaking English, so let's push the content to English speaking audience. So yeah, that's that. Apparently, yeah, apart from that, started the TikTok accounts for both the live channel, the nature channel, and the Twitch channel as well. And yeah, so on TikTok, on the Indian like kind of like a TikTok app, and then also on Instagram. So slowly, let's hope get a little bit of attraction here and there. So yeah, hopefully it does work. So yeah. Yeah, that's that. That is that. Yeah, for some reason, I can't actually show y'all, but Travoy looks completely fucking... I don't understand who the fuck decided that was a fucking good thing to make the bottom of the sides of the stream a little bit kind of like blackish. I don't know, because like what ratio I'm streaming in is a perfectly fine 1080, 920 p resolution. But for some reason, I thought like, you know what, let's fucking do that shit. But man, whatever. And that's it. That's that. Yeah, but actually, like looking at Travoy, I'm pretty sure it's like like an English thing. I think it's like more like a I don't know what language it is, but it's like looking at the what you saying, like how this thing is done. It's actually quite It looks better. It definitely looks better than fucking YouTube, to be fair. Yeah. Like the way that the chat looks, the way that it looks about the way that it provides information about the person that you're watching and stuff like that. That's actually quite nice. And I can, like, you see, what is this? Some rank. Hourly top. Look at that. Hourly top IRL 42. Whatever the fuck that thing means. Lechka Corn Squeaky Vladimir Fest. What the fuck? I don't know. It's very interesting. Okay, fine. It's kind of like a, how do we top, like a leaderboard, I guess. I'm like a 28 person. Even though I have absolutely no person viewing. I don't know why the fuck I'm there. Alright. The thing is, like, I've updated my picture to like a hentai. Not like a hentai, just like an anime picture. For some reason, it's not showing up. Maybe it didn't actually get approved. So, yeah. It's quite nice. So yeah, apart from that, what else? The winter, well, winter's not wintering enough. There's absolutely no snow. Last week there was snow, absolutely all the snow fell in and absolutely in the entirety of the day evaporated. So yeah, and since then, no, I think like this week, I think it's going to snow quite a heavy amount. I think it's going to go, I think, -5 or something like that. So actually it's going to go, pretty cold. But apart from that, I don't think the winter is going to be that oomph this year. So yeah, actually in all the 5 years, I think a proper winter, I think it actually never happened. No. And also last year an event over here, there's absolutely no snow whatever, but as soon as I fucking reached St. Petersburg, it was completely covered in snow. So yeah. I mean, it's quite a great distance, to be fair, from here to St. Petersburg. So yeah, definitely, But yeah. That's that. Just looking at this best of lo-fi hip hop 2021 video. It's very relaxing. I don't know, something, of a girl sitting at a chair behind a table and petting her cat while having a cup of, I'm guessing, tea, watching the fireworks in the distance. Quite nice. Yeah. That's that. But man, whatever. I'm doing this for the fun of the game. Yeah. Yeah. It does get quite boring. But what to do? What to do? From now on, let's not get all sad about it. Let's just watch something. Let's watch some YouTube. How about that? Bum, 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 let's see, subscriptions. What do we have? Something maybe interesting? Something new? Alright. What is this?
It is the 1st of July 1986, and at New Jersey's Lakehurst Naval Air Engineering Center, a bizarre-looking airship is taking to the skies for the first time.
Oh.
But only minutes in, something is wrong. The huge aircraft
Oh, penis.
is breaking
What
apart.
could it be?
Only a short while earlier, the strange vehicle had emerged from one of the airbase's huge hangars. To any onlookers, it must have seemed like a portal to the past. Lakehurst was once home to the US Navy's fleet of airships, but they had been decommissioned almost 3 decades ago. The history of the airship runs deep at Lakehurst. It was here on the 6th of May 1937 that the
Lakehurst.
infamous Hindenburg came crashing to the ground in a tangle of metal and burning fabric, killing 36 people and hastening the end of the age of the airship.
Burning and bursting into flames and it's falling on the morning fast and all the folks between that this is
Oh
terrible.
my god, it's horrible fucking thing to business. Holy shit.
While the large balloon envelope may have looked
Imagine
like a vision of the
being
past,
in there and
what
fucking
was
witnessing
suspended
that goddamn.
underneath was most definitely not. A bizarre forest of scaffolding and support beams formed 4 arms, each holding aloft a helicopter, or at least the front half of one. The tails had been crudely chopped off, leaving only the cockpits and main rotors bolted onto the frame. Its creators nervously gathered around, hoped that it might one day be the future of heavy lift aircraft. But years overdue and millions of dollars over budget, if it doesn't fly tonight, the entire project and all of their years of work may come to an
That
end.
looks so fucking
It
shit.
all
What the fuck
rode
is that?
on
Goddamn.
this flight.
Boys got guts, I'll tell you that. What is that? I'll be honest with you, it looks like a hell of a configuration.
Definitely
The
looks
clatter
like
of
shit.
The 4 helicopter engines erupts across the airfield. They spin up, bite into the air, and begin lifting the ungainly contraption off the
It
ground.
looks so horrible.
It is
My
the
goodness.
first successful flight
What the fuck is
of the Piazaki PA-97 Helistat. But only minutes in, it becomes immediately clear the
Oh
aircraft
my goodness, it
isn't
looks so
working.
ugly.
The entire structure begins to shake and twist, but before the pilots can bring it safely to the ground,
Oh my goodness, fucking hell. What happened? Did one of the helicopter fuselages fuck off? Yeah, it did. Oh, fucking all of them fucked off.
one man is dead. Tens of millions of dollars worth and years of development is now
Oh my
scattered
God.
across a New Jersey airfield. But what on earth happened? What was the Piazaki PA-97 Helistat, and what was it intended to be? And how did a project like this make it so far through development? How was something with so many clear flaws even able to get off the ground?
I guess
The
what
story
I'm
is
seeing is
perhaps
by looks of this thing is like what they thought about. Okay, fine, I strap 4 fucking helicopters to a base connected to a big ass fucking lifting platform, which is filled it with a little bit of like a lifting gas, let's say, right, and hope that works. But thing is, like, wouldn't it be much better to like control them, not like independently, but like control them like from like a central thing? What I'm thinking is right now is like each one of these things had a person controlling it. I don't think that's a pretty good idea. So yeah.
a lesson in ambition pushed beyond its limits, of ignored warnings and sunk cost fallacies, and of a promising concept whose
Mechanical
rushed,
mongrel.
compromised execution ended in catastrophe.
Helistat, the 100 million experiment destroyed in
Frank
seconds.
Piasecki was one of the most significant and inventive figures in early helicopter development. Born in 1919, he had studied engineering at the University of Pennsylvania and soon entered the small, rapidly emerging world of rotary wing flight. He had founded the Piazaki Helicopter Corporation in 1940, and its early experimental
Piazaki.
PV-2 became only the third helicopter ever to fly in the United States. While his contemporaries like Sikorsky chased single-rotor designs, Piazaki's attention soon shifted towards multi-rotor configurations, leading to the PV-3, later developed into the HRP Rescuer, and the world's first successful tandem rotor helicopter. From this lineage came the Piazaki H-21, a high-lift, cold-weather workhorse that became the most widely used tandem
the
rotor
banana.
helicopter of its era.
The
By
banana.
the mid-1950s, however,
I mean, that's what I call
Frank's
it.
relationship
I mean,
with his own
it kind of looks
company
like a
had
fucking banana.
collapsed. The board forced him out, and the original firm was soon acquired by Boeing, becoming Boeing Vertol, the division that would go on to develop the enormously successful Chinook family of tandem rotor helicopters, and the ultimate expression of Frank Piazaki's pioneering twin-rotor vision. Frank, meanwhile, founded a new venture, the Piazaki Aircraft Corporation. From there, he pursued a series of experimental military contracts. There was the bizarre PA-59 Air Jeep, a low-flying twin-rotor compact flying jeep, and the high-speed 16H Pathfinder, among others. But running alongside these projects was a concept that Piazaki had been nurturing for years. In 1958, he filed the first patent for what he called the Helicopter and Balloon Aircraft Unit. Two twin-rotor helicopters, resembling early HRP rescuers without their exterior fuselage, are connected by a transverse beam structure. This joint locked the two aircraft together in yaw so they couldn't twist into each other, but allowed limited movement in pitch and roll relative to the frame. Moored to the centre of this structure was the large balloon, providing almost all the lifting force and thus freeing the helicopter rotors to focus purely on propulsion and control. Piazaki's patent accounted for quick-release joints, so either helicopter could detach in an emergency, along with similar releases for both the balloon and the load cables. The patent soon made it to the New York Times, where it was described as an aircraft that combines two helicopters and a balloon, designed to transport heavy loads over mountains and jungles. The inventor believes his balloon-assisted helicopter lift will be especially useful in oil, mining and lumber companies for isolated situations. On a completely unrelated note, the Times also excitedly reported on a hog scratcher. A drawing in patent 3008452 shows a hog contentedly scratching its back against a moving belt and receiving simultaneously an application of insecticide. And if we look up the patent 3008452, yep, that is a drawing of a content
pig scratcher.
I don't know why that makes me laugh so much.
Pig
By
scratcher.
1971, the idea, the Helistat, not the hog scratcher, eventually moved into a full Department of Defence feasibility study. The study focused on two helicopters, rigidly connected end to end, and acting as a single heavy lift aircraft. The diagrams showed a deceptively simple setup that could be assembled in the field or on the deck of an aircraft carrier. The concept doesn't seem to have progressed much beyond a study phase, though the Piazaki Corporation seemed to eventually settle on a more ambitious quad-rotor layout that used four surplus Sikorsky H-53E helicopters designated the PA-39 and with a proposed payload capability of over 60 tons. A few years later, however, the same basic four-helicopter framework seemed to reappear, this time with a familiar addition, a large non-rigid helium envelope mounted above the structure, returning the design to the hybrid configuration Frank Piazaki had envisioned back in the 1950s. This updated concept was pitched to the US Forestry Service, who were interested in heavy lift capabilities for removing logging material from remote forests, and in 1980 the proposals took a leap towards reality. The Helistat is a revolutionary new type of aircraft, which is composed of four helicopters mated to an airship. The Helistat is designed to provide heavy vertical lift capabilities that far exceed those available through the use of conventional helicopters. According to Helistat inventor Frank Piazaki, the Helistat will be able to lift about 26 tons, or twice as much as the largest commercial helicopter.
I mean, yeah,
now
that's
in
actually
use
quite a
in the
good
US,
thing.
and it will complete its mission with an estimated savings of 37% over conventional helicopter harvesting methods. So I've been doing a lot of drawing recently, and I thought I would take a crack at drawing the Helistat, and you can kind of see when you study this concept that was released in the fact sheet by the US
Okay, what the fuck
Forestry
happened to my
Service,
fucking
you can
browser?
really get an idea of the combination of
The fuck?
Able to lift about 26 tons, or twice as much as the largest commercial helicopter now in use in the US. And it will complete its mission with an estimated savings of 37% over conventional.
Okay, fine. Either my fucking laptop is going to fucking burn up and crash now.
So I've been doing a lot of drawing recently,
Or,
and I thought I'd take a crack at drawing the helistand, and you can kind of
technical
see
difficulty.
when you study this concept.
Nothing works as it should work at. Why? Oh my, now I think just crashed. The entire browser crashed.
An estimated savings of 37% over conventional helicopter harvesting methods. So I've been doing a lot of drawing recently, and I thought I would take a crack at drawing the helistand, and you can kind of see when you study this concept that was released in the fact sheet by the US Forestry Service, you can really get an idea of the combination of Paizaki's earlier patent combined with some of the things that they had obviously learned and developed during that study into combining two helicopters end to end. But you have this lattice work frame here, which looks very similar to the framework that was used in that study. But you can also see that the original patent had more of a circular hot air balloon style gas bag, whereas this has a more conventional US Army blimp. And at this point, they were interested in looking at the idea of using surplus equipment. And ex-military blimps, which had been used up till the 1960s, I suppose was the basis for this idea. And what's interesting here is you can actually see, I think anyway, I've drawn them as UH-1 Bell Huey helicopters, that quite distinctive Vietnam era helicopter design. Again, I suppose the idea being that they could be utilised as surplus for the construction of the Helistad. But yeah, quite an odd futuristic vision of a gravity-defying vehicle. And it leads me quite neatly onto the pen that I used for drawing all of this, and today's sponsor, the Novium Hover Pen. I love my pen, I love my drawing, I love my writing as well too. In fact, a lot of the videos that you guys watch start their lives as notes sketched in a diary at some point using a pen. So as you can imagine, I'm always on the lookout for new writing implements. And the Novium Hover Pen combines this crazy, futuristic, gravity-defying design alongside a really rugged and reliable writing implement. And it really does hover. It's held at 23.5 degrees, a reference to the Earth's axial tilt. Novium make these out of space-grade aluminium, so they feel very weighty and very robust, but also balanced and comfortable in the hand, and it makes for a really nice writing and drawing experience. They also sent me the Hover Pen Future, which is especially nice as it has
Let's call Hover Pen, as if I can actually fucking hover.
And it is genuinely beautiful for writing in a nice notebook. They make a wonderful addition to a desk or study, but they're also a great gift idea. They come in these beautifully presented boxes, perfect for anyone into space, engineering, writing, or just interesting
Fine then, I think more to 2 minutes. I think I'll end this video. I think I'll watch it and then I think you know what I'm thinking.
Mars magma. There's
yes, I'll watch that movie which I'm thinking shouldn't go really well. I think I'll kick off YouTube, but I'll stream on Kick, Twitch and Travel. Let's hope that won't trigger anything.
So if you want to check out the Hover Pen and make it the perfect gift for someone you know, check the link in the description below. They ship pretty much everywhere: North America, Europe, the UK, Australia, and if you use my code Callum, you'll get 15% off the next 72 hours and 10% off after that. So thanks again for the sponsor Novium, and let's get back to the Helistad. Although the contract came through the Forest Service, the project would be funded and monitored by the US Navy's Air Development Center, which remained interested in whether the concept could fulfill the military's long-standing ambitions for rotor-powered aircraft capable of carrying tanks and other heavy equipment. Paiazaki himself seemed keenly aware of this, saying, "The Navy may want to get into its own specific designs. It's possible to make one carry a 65-ton battle tank." The initial prototype would be built at Lakehurst, where the facility,
good idea,
materials, and
right.
lighter-than-air expertise still existed. And the Forest Service were hopeful not just about the business case.
But
for the
just thinking
project,
as a
but
call, I
also
think they
its
were
promise of a
operational like
speedy
independently,
delivery.
not like
The
centrally.
contract
That's why
was
the
awarded to
problem
Piasecki
arose.
in January 1980, and it is valued at $10.7 million.
That's what I'm suspecting.
Most of the development costs for the Helistat could be offset by the sale of timber logged by the new aircraft during
Timber?
its initial tests to be conducted in the national forests in the Pacific Northwest. Piasekki's Helistat design was selected by the
It's very interesting name. Helistat.
Forest Service because
Helicopter
the firm could deliver the completed
stat
vehicle in 2
stationary?
years instead of the 5 years needed
Like,
by
what the fuck
other
does stat
potential
mean?
builders. The Helistat was not ready for testing and trials by the end of fall 1981, as the US Forest Service had excitedly claimed in their fact sheet. By August 1982, there was still no sign of a finished Helistat. A report stated that the Helistat was a year behind schedule and 13% over its initial $10.7 million
How? It's
government
nothing. You
contract.
can,
A
you,
Piasecki
how the
spokesman
fuck did they go for 13% of 100 million budget? How can you fucking go so much? You literally fucking have to connect an old piece of shit to another old piece of shit. Literally. What the fuck do you have to fucking spend money on?
at the time was
And
quoted
connect it with a little bit of like a fucking heavy duty piping.
saying that we've had some unforeseen technical problems, but any one-of-a-kind vehicle is bound to have setbacks. One of Frank Piasekki's selling points for the Helistat was that it could use surplus existing equipment to keep costs down. But much of the airship equipment no longer even existed in surplus. A report stated that Piasecki is cutting costs by using surplus materials. The 20-year-old blimp, once used for military surveillance over the Atlantic, is the only Navy surplus airbag left. However, the Navy in fact possessed no surplus airbags, as a 1983 magazine detailed. The blimp envelope, for example, was saved from destruction through an elaborate ruse involving a request by an air aviation museum in the Midwest, asking the Navy to hold on to the blimp until arrangements could be made for their display in a museum. In actuality, the museum had no intention of doing so. Another newspaper noted that the equipment had then been found after
1960. Wait, actually, let me just see. When did blimps stop? When did blimps stop flying? 1939.
been hidden away behind dummy walls in the base when
Should
the
be
airship division had been closed
enough
in the 1960s.
time.
The helicopters being used were similarly vintage. Early sketches seem to depict the use of Bell UH-1 Hueys, but instead it was 4 Sikorsky H-34Js that found their tails being cut off and hoisted onto the growing frame. The spidery network of scaffolding that held the strange aircraft together was being constructed using sections of metal tubing, and in some places lightweight aluminium irrigation pipes. As Piasecki
fucking right,
mentioned,
what the hell?
you can't do a job like this for the amount we have unless you scrounge. The same article noted, doubters who scoff at the Helistat's potential note that the site of the development is where the Hindenburg went down in flames in 1937. Whether the Helistat will be a daydream come true or a nightmarish folly is something only time will tell. Only a couple of years in, worried parties were increasingly concerned it was the latter. In November 1982, a federal review by the US General Accounting Office painted a worrying picture of the Helistat's development. In 1979, the estimated net cost of the program was $6.7 million, a figure that assumed the sale of harvested timber would offset the Helistat's development costs. By the end of 1982, timber prices had collapsed, while the development of the Helistat had overrun, bringing the net cost to at least $31.7 million, well over $100 million in today's money. Far more troubling, however,
How the
was the
fuck
picture
did it go over budget that
overrun,
much?
bringing the net cost
Wait, estimate, current estimate. Oh, it's fucking dropped down.
to at least $31.7
The
million, well over $100 million in today's money. Far more troubling, however, was the picture that began to emerge about the Helistat's engineering. According to visiting Navy, NASA and FAA officials, design of the interconnecting structure, the central frame that held the blimp and 4 helicopters together, had run from January 1981 through October 1982. fabrication of the structure had begun in March 1981 and continued through November.
Okay.
Thus, the structure was being built long before the design was completed. A
How the
NASA
fuck?
official who attended a critical design review found that analysis of various joints around the structure had been done incorrectly, and FAA officials identified numerous problems in the overall construction, including poor welding, out of tolerance dimensions, spliced or patched tubes, scored and dented tube ends, and insufficient cleaning of bonded surfaces.
That's why it
Beyond
fucking
the
collapsed.
clear concerns in the construction, design,
Shit.
and engineering of the helistad, the report stressed more fundamental issues with the project itself. There was still no credible timeline for completion, making any final costs unknown, and even if the helistad were completed, there was almost no industry interest. The Forest Service had not contacted potential users before starting the project. When the accounting office for their report contacted dozens of logging companies and associations, almost none expressed interest in the concept as a practical logging tool. The scathing report caused quite a stir in the media, but Frank Piasecki was quick to defend the project, as were forestry officials. "We still believe it's a good idea," said David Jolly, Deputy Director of Timber Management for the Forest Service. "It may look a little crazy, but the potential benefits are worth some risk." Besides Igor Sikorsky, there were few names more famous in the world of helicopter flight than Frank Piasecki. He was a pioneer, a visionary whose confidence had helped push the development of rotary wing aviation forward, and he had seen more than one project succeed after being called insane for even trying. To Piasecki, the criticism from bureaucrats and government analysts was nothing new. Just one more in a chorus of voices that had insisted over his career that his ideas would never work. In one 1983 newspaper article on the helistad, Piasecki recalled building his first helicopter from junk auto parts in a rented Philadelphia garage in the early 1940s. Almost 40 years later, Piasecki found himself in a remarkably similar situation, fending off the same kind of doubters as his vast helistad came together from recycled parts and aging surplus equipment. He had proved his doubters wrong before, and he remained as confident as ever that he would do it again. But by 1984, there was still no sign of the helistad. US Senator William Proxmire described the project as a mechanical mongrel after he awarded it his Golden Fleece Award, an infamous trophy given out to the public officials in the United States who squandered public money. The machine, 343 feet long, 187 feet wide, and 111 feet high, is supposed to lift logs from national forests. Instead, its main success will be in lifting the taxpayer's wallet, Proxmire said. The Forest Service has admitted that the cost of the project ballooned from $26 million to nearly $40 million for this one-of-a-kind aerial vehicle. They originally intended to test the machine in May 1982. That date has now slipped to January 1986, and may slip further. 6 years after the contract was signed and tens of millions of dollars over budget, the helistad was finally edging towards its first flight tests. But what emerged from the Lakehurst hangar was a far cry from the glossy concept art that had been circulating in the early 1980s. The finished machine was looking tired before it ever even left the ground. A 20-year-old blimp envelope, 4 mismatched 30-year-old helicopters with their tails cut off, and a latticework frame made from fabricated pipework and irrigation tubing. The Sikorsky H-34s had needed major additions to get the helistad in the air. The entire craft sat on a set of precarious-looking landing gear, described by some as shopping cart casters. Worst of all, they had no brakes at all. The idea was to let the helistad drift with the wind on the ground, much like a normal moored airship swings around its nose into the wind. But without brakes or any steering control, the moment the wind shifted, the whole machine could, and made landing a potential nightmare. Still, it was a concept, not a completed product, and Piasecki needed to press ahead as both funding and patience was finally getting to its end. In April, developers were telling reporters that the helistad was scheduled for its first free flight this month, touting it as the largest aircraft in the world, capable of lifting 24 tons of cargo and potentially serving roles from offshore oil work to anti-submarine warfare. But when it did finally tentatively lift off the ground, it began to wobble and sway, visibly unstable even in the calm air. Moments later, it come down hard, smashing the left front landing gear and sending the teams back to the drawing board. A Forest Service spokesman showed tape of the crash, admitted there has been some concern about control problems and the stability of the aircraft, and the tests showed that these concerns were justified. Another statement, somewhat defensively, added, "I'm not sure how much they were actually trying to achieve. Obviously, they didn't expect it to fly all over New Jersey." It was a curious statement, considering that years earlier, the Helistat had been promised in only 28 months and to be flying above forests harvesting timber for the Forestry Service. By the 23rd of June, Forest Service officials were meeting at Washington, D.C. to discuss the project's future. A second meeting was to happen on the 1st of July, and on the 2nd of July, they would gather at Lakehurst, where officials could review the aircraft, question Piazaki, and finally decide what would happen to the mechanical mongrel. For the teams working day and night to try and get the Helistat airborne, time was truly running out. Around 6:15 on the evening of the 1st of July 1986, the Helistat was rolled out for another test. Louis Berman, the Navy's program manager for the Helistat, stood behind the video camera filming this latest test as they had done on previous flights. At 6:45 p.m, Master Pilot Bernal Stutzman released the Helistat from the mooring mast. Stutzman, an experienced pilot with more than 20,000 hours in rotorcraft, sat in the left rear helicopter designated number 1. He sat alongside co-pilot Louis Prost, a blimp pilot in charge of the airship above them. This helicopter would serve as the master cockpit, the only place where the Helistat's collective controls came together. Each of the other 3 helicopters carried a single crewman. There was number 2, forward on the left side, flown by Gary Olszewski. There was number 3 on the right front, with Michael Stock aboard, and number 4 on the right rear, flown by Kenneth Reusser. Together, the 4 cockpits were linked by a maze of mechanical and electrical linkages running through the interconnecting frame, letting Stutzman command all 4 helicopters at once, at least in theory. That evening, the wind blew a steady 8 knots from the southeast, but could be unpredictable as it swirled around the massive hangars. Now, loosed from the mooring mast, the engines of the 4 helicopters roared, applying forward thrust to counteract the Helistat drifting in the wind. The crew in the 3 auxiliary cockpits called out instrument readings and control responses. Stutzman worked the controls while Prost attempted to hold the Helistat level. Perhaps aware of how this may be the final make-or-break flight, the Helistat finally managed to lift off. Hovering at 40, 50, maybe even 60 feet, Louis Berman calls out on the tape. It manages to hover at this height for around 8 minutes, exceeding anything they had been able to achieve before. Feeling confident, Stutzman decided to practice a landing before requesting permission for a 100-foot hover. Elated to finally see the Helistat in the air after so many failed attempts and years of development, Gary Olszewski in helicopter number 2 calls out on the radio. That was a great birthday present. It would be his last words. As they touched down for the landing, number 3 helicopter's engine suddenly seemed to drop below 2,100 revolutions per minute. Stutzman, seeing this, radios that he now intends to stop the test and bring the Helistat back to its mooring. But now the ship's nose is turning past the wind direction and not stopping. Stutzman applies right rudder to try and point it towards the wind, but rather than turning, it begins accelerating and rolling on its landing gear across the tarmac. The Helistat, with its freewheeling landing gear, was, as Stutzman described it, an acre of sail on roller skates, and now seemingly at the mercy of the wind and at least one malfunctioning helicopter. Stutzman, keeping on right rudder, applies controls for reverse thrust. Now the entire vehicle seems to groan, forces pulling the rickety structure in multiple directions. Reports indicate that the landing gear now began to shimmy, and a distinctive chatter rings out through the frame of the Helistat. Stutzman, in the master cockpit, must have realised quickly what was happening. The vibration seemed to be building into ground resonance, a dangerous phenomena caused by the helicopter's rotor blades shifting out of sync and shaking the helicopter's body and landing gear. The endless building feedback loop of vibrations could be catastrophic, especially when applied across the entire untested airframe of the Helistat. Stutzman knew in that moment the only way to counteract the building ground resonance would be to take off and get away from the ground. Applying forward thrust for a rolling takeoff, he needed to get airborne fast. As the video shows, the Helistat now tips upwards, but it's too late. Number 4 helicopter on the back right can be seen falling backwards, tearing itself free from the frame. As the structure begins to fail, Stutzman's helicopter on the opposite side is seen shaking before also beginning to fall. The footage is grainy, but Stutzman, sitting in the pilot's seat of his helicopter on the back left, can be seen thrown around by the violent shuddering as the
Shut.
aircraft rips apart. The entire structure is now compromised. This footage, shot from further back on the runway, shows number 4 falling first, then followed by number 1 and 2 on the left-hand side breaking off almost simultaneously. Number 3 on the front right falls last as shrapnel, or perhaps the frame tearing from the balloon, rips open the envelope. The vintage airship, shedding the weight of the falling helicopters, now lifts one final time before folding in and crashing to the ground. On the camera footage, the sound of helicopter engines roaring on the ground and rotors still spinning can be heard. A woman watching the catastrophe unfold screams. Some reports claim in the video footage that one onlooker can be heard cursing Frank Piasecki. It might be the sounds heard here.
Fucking hell.
One crewman, Gary Olszewski, was killed instantly when the number 2 helicopter that he was piloting hit the tarmac. The other 4 crew members survived, 3 with major injuries. Michael Stock of helicopter number 3 managed to escape with an injured arm and took a photo of the crash in the seconds after he escaped his mangled cockpit. Gary Olszewski had flown helicopters all over the world, from Vietnam to Alaska and the Amazon. He had spent 5 years in the US Marine Corps, including a year as a helicopter gunship pilot in Vietnam. Obsessed with engineering and especially helicopters, he was also an experienced teacher. He had received a bachelor's and a master's in education, as well as a degree in engineering from the University of Tennessee, as well as working as a flight engineer for the Piasecki Aircraft Corporation on the Helistat project. He was also a captain in the National Guard. A friend said of him, "Gary was always fascinated by helicopters. Having a chance to work for Piasecki, who was in his eyes a pioneer, I guess Gary felt he was a pioneer too." Gary's widow said, "He had such potential. He could talk to the pilots and the engineers. His best skill was communication. Though he wanted to be the best, it wasn't in a competitive way. He was very supportive of others." In 1983, Gary had stumbled upon a plane that crashed into a lake. The pilot was trapped inside as it sunk under the water. Pushing past shocked witnesses, he dived from a bridge into the lake, pulling the man from the plane, who unfortunately later died of his injuries. Gary figured it was a pilot, and if he were in that situation, he'd want someone to help him. Mrs. Olszewski said that she has started scrapbooks about her husband for each of their children. Their father was a special man. I want them to know that. It would be months of delays before the reports emerged finally about the causes of the crash. Investigators later concluded that the crash resulted from a chain of problems. Missed throttle linkages and a control system anomaly may have been what caused number 3's speed to suddenly drop, throwing the entire vehicle out of balance. The Helistat's free castering landing gear had been designed to let it move on the ground with the wind, but it had impacted control, and the design had led to the violent shaking. The structural weaknesses in the interconnecting frame, highlighted years earlier by NASA, Navy and FAA engineers, finally gave up along one or multiple failure points, resulting in the Helistat eventually shaking itself apart. The sunk cost fallacy describes our human tendency to continue with an endeavour simply because of the money, effort or time already invested, even when in reality the costs clearly outweigh the benefits. To those who have invested that time, that money or that effort though, the reality isn't so clear. In fact, it can create a delusion, a misplaced belief that an undertaking must succeed purely because of the sheer amount of work already poured into it. The Helistat project was cancelled almost immediately following the crash. In 1991, 5 years after the disaster, the family of Gary Olszewski received $1.5 million in settlement from the government. Despite the dramatic end to the Helistat, the dream of the hybrid or heavy-lift airship certainly didn't die. In the years after, similar concepts were attempted, many with great success. Yet, returning to the Helistat's audit from 1982, one of the key criticisms, separate from the engineering concerns, was that commercial interest in large cargo airships was virtually non-existent. Perhaps the most forward-thinking element of the project was actually Piasecki's earlier four-rotor studies that didn't utilise a balloon, the so-called MHHLS, conceptually similar to the modern quadcopter drone. But much like how the age of the airship was ushered out by the dramatic Hindenburg disaster, the dream of Piasecki's hybrid airship helicopter Helistat also seems confined to the past, but it all came to an end, much like the Hindenburg on the runways of Lakehurst. Well, thanks to everyone who watched this far. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the PA-97 Helistat. I really didn't think there was all that much to this story until I started digging into the newspapers, sort of reading this timeline to disaster, reading the warnings, the reports, the criticisms, and knowing tragically how it was all going to end. It has properly consumed me for these last few months, and I'm really glad to have had the chance to share it with you all. Big thanks to the person on Reddit about 4 years ago who tagged me in a comment about this and said, oh, you should make a video about this. And I ignored them, thinking it wasn't a very interesting topic. And it came roaring back into my head years and years later. A big thanks, as always, to my patrons over at Patreon, patreon.com/CallumRassi, and a big thanks to Novium. Check out their amazing floating pens in the link below, and don't forget to use my code Callum for 15% off for the next 72 hours, 10% after that. I had a lot of fun drawing the Helistat. I've not had a chance to do much drawing as of late. I used to do this quite a lot, where I would draw the plans and depictions of the subject that I was covering, and I'd like to get back into doing that. Maybe I'll try finishing this drawing and I'll put it on like a t-shirt or a hat or something. Watch this space. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Alright. Fine. So what was that? Let's watch the movie now, shall we? So fine. So people on YouTube, I shall see you all soon. But if you want to watch a movie, come to either or just come to Twitch. It'll be much easier. So yeah. So YouTube, thank you for watching, and I shall see you guys